Hi dear students, a warm good morning to all of you. Welcome to the first session of bacterial nutrition and metabolism. In the previous sessions we mentioned how bacteria take up food by or take up various nutrients which it requires through various mechanisms. Now the nutrients that it needs to take these nutrients and it needs to produce energy. And this production of energy is possible only when the nutrients that it takes is being broken down into small particles and at the same time ATP is generated. This process is referred to as catabolism, where the nutrients are being broken down into precursor molecules and ATP is generated. At the same time, these precursor molecules can be further utilized by the bacteria to build up various other larger molecules which have been required for its metabolism, and that is referred to as the anabolism. So the nutrient uptake is followed by two different mechanisms of two different aspects of metabolism called the catabolism and the anabolism. In this session, we would be talking about how the molecules which it takes in is broken down and how it derives energy called in the form of ATP. We know that the energy currency of the cell is called ATP. So every nutrient it takes, it has to break down it and then it has to generate ATP. For this process to happen, bacteria as well as higher organisms, we use lots of enzymes, metabolic pathways, which carry out different functions at different times. And in the metabolism point of view, I would be just giving you an overview of how the nutrients are broken down, what all pathways are common for the bacteria which are being carried out by it, and how it generates ATP. That's what we are going to learn in this. Now, if you go to consider the microorganisms, you can see that some of them are autotrophs and some of them are heterotrophs. Autotrophs can use carbon dioxide as a sole carbon source and they can do what? The process of photosynthesis also. Just like the plants, they also can do photosynthesis. So one mode of getting a carbon source and making its own ATP is by the process of photosynthesis. And some bacteria are heterotrophs, that is, they use either reduced or preformed organic molecules which have been formed from other organisms as their food. They are referred to as the heterotrophs. Now, not only carbon, you should require energy also. The energy can be derived either from light. The microbes which use light are referred to as the phototrophs, and the organisms which utilize the chemical energy are referred to as the chemotrophs. Now, how do they get this chemical energy? By the oxidation of organic and inorganic compounds. And at the same time, for the generation of ATP, the electrons which are being formed during the metabolism should be transferred to a terminal electron acceptor. If reduced inorganic molecules are being used for that, that is referred to as the lithotrophs, that is the electron sources. If they are reduced inorganic molecules, then you refer to as lithotrophs. And if organic molecules are the electron sources, you call it as organotrophs. So, depending upon the carbon, the energy and the electron sources, there are a wide range of microorganisms. And they are called photolithoautotrophs, photoorganoheterotrophs, chemolithoautotrophs, chepolithoheterotrophs, chemoorganoheterotrophs, based upon what is their carbon source, what is their energy source, as well as what is their electron sources. Okay, all carbon, energy and electron are being needed in a whole, only then they can further on synthesize ATP by their own. Along with the nutrients, they require energy as well as electron source to synthesize ATP. So there are different organisms. I'm not going into the details of that because we have already discussed that in other sessions. So the energy source, the carbon source and the electron source are being used by the organisms and the organisms produces ATP. So the ATP synthesis is being carried out by microorganisms either by using chemoorganotropy, that is chemical energy and organic compounds are being used. You know what's it? Chemoorganotrop, that is the energy source is organic molecules. Either by using chemical compounds, they can use ATP synthesis, or by the process of photosynthesis also. That is when they use light energy and other carbon dioxide based thing, they are called they use the photosynthesis based energy synthesis. So energy synthesis in microorganisms can be carried out by either using chemoorganotropy or by using photosynthesis. This is just an outline on how they get ATP. Now, those who are using chemoorganotropy, okay, that is they are using chemical compounds. If you take those organisms, some of them will take these organic energy and electron sources, which are already been found to be as they have been found, that is they take it from the external environment. From the external environment they will take the organic compounds as well as the electron sources, and they will break it down, and during this breakdown process certain electrons are also liberated, and these electrons will pass through an electron transport chain, and finally this electron transport chain at the end, some microorganisms will give these electrons into oxygen to the terminal electron acceptor oxygen. So all those microorganisms which takes organic energy and the electron source from exogenous sources, that is they do not form it by themselves but they are getting it from outside. If they take those compounds and they break it down, and during the breakdown process what will happen, there would be certain electrons which are being liberated. These electrons will pass through an electron transport chain and finally it is being given to oxygen. If it is the terminal electron acceptor is oxygen, such microorganisms are said to follow the aerobic respiration. But some microorganisms do not or are not capable of utilizing oxygen. So what do? Is they take these electrons and finally giving it into some inorganic compounds such as sulfate, nitrate, carbon dioxide, fumarate, etc. That is, for their respiration, they are not using oxygen, they are using something else other than that. That organisms are referred to as anaerobes. And in some cases, this organic energy and electron sources can be are being utilized, and you can see that the electron acceptors, okay, the electron acceptors will be intermediate compounds within the body itself. And so now here, which is a terminal electron acceptor? It is oxygen. These are all exogenous. They are not being produced by them. They are being produced by the environment and the bacteria uses it. Sometimes what happens, the electrons which have been formed over here will be taken up by certain endogenous electron acceptors. That is, within the organism itself, sometimes there would be, which have been derived from its own cell, there would be some electron acceptors like pyruvate and all that. If they are doing a process like that, you call the process as fermentation. And this will result in the formation of biosynthesis, or we will result in the formation of various fermentation products. So the overall metabolism of an organism is that it will take carbon, energy as well as electron source, and this carbon is being broken down and energy is being liberated, and using these intermediates as well as the energy, various macromolecules will be formed. And the energy derivation can either be by chemoorganotropy as well as by photosynthesis. When they do autotropy, it is called photosynthesis, and when they are heterotrophs or when they use organic molecules, you call it as chemoorganotropy. So in this session, I would be going on into what are the metabolic reactions by which the nutrients which they take up is being broken down, and how they have been converted into ATP. That's what we are going to talk about in the metabolism session. So just have an overall, like there could be different things, either proteinaceous compounds, polysaccharide compounds, or phospholipids. All of these might be there. They are all being broken down into small particles like amino acids, monosaccharides, glycerol, and fatty acids. And ultimately, what happens? They all these compounds enter into a pathway called the glycolytic pathway, and that's familiar. After the glycolytic pathway, it passes through the tricarboxylic cycle, and during this process, ATP and NADH and FADH2, all these are being formed. And the NADH and FADH2 and all passes again through the electron transport chain, and what? Finally, it goes to the terminal electron acceptor, either oxygen or any other compounds. You can see here, either oxygen, inorganic compounds, or sometime, and based upon that you can call it as either aerobic respiration or you can call it as anaerobic respiration. And sometimes the terminal electron acceptors will be endogenous, that is within their body itself they might utilize it and do some biosynthetic mechanisms and result in the formation of other biosynthetic parts of the body, or various other fermentation products would also be formed. So this is an overall of the bacterial metabolism. We would be going in the next session the pathways which are being used by bacteria for the breakdown of what? Of the nutrients which they are taken. And they mainly will involve the glycolytic pathway, TCA cycle. I will be concentrating on those catabolic pathways, and finally we will also enter into the electron transport chain. So with this we come to an end of the session. We will go into the more details in the next session. Thank you for now.